Thank you all for tuning in. I'm Selena, and this is You Plus Happy. Each week, I bring you someone who challenges us to define happiness and success on their own terms with a dose of laughter. Remember to subscribe to the You Plus Happy podcast on YouTube. Tell your friends. Tell your friends to tell a friend. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. That's really helpful. Thank you so much. And you can also follow the show on Instagram at You Plus Happy. This week, y'all, I'm gonna say it right. I'm gonna say his name correctly. This week we have Angel Rivera.
Yes, there it is. You got it.
Actor, model, and content creator. Welcome to the show.
Yes. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So I told you before, just jump right in. How did you get started?
Oof, how did I get started? Jesus, it's been 84 years.
No.
So everything started back in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I always was in this private school, very religious,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And growing up in Puerto Rico, it was totally, very interesting, right? Like
Yeah.
religions was always there. But then I was in a school that was a religion that I wasn't from, so it was like a whole mess in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I jumped to high school and I want to change schools, right? I tell my parents like I want to change schools, and they changed me to a public school. And then everything started. When you go to a public school and you see reality,
Yeah.
and you see this is how people are for real, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I went to that school. That was an art school, and they were doing like a choir group and a theater group.
Okay.
Now the theater group never worked out because they always said we have a teacher, but the teacher never appeared. That's the education system in Puerto Rico. It's another thing. So I discovered the choir group, and that's when I fell in love. I started doing musicals there, and that was in my 10th grade. And that's how everything started. I discovered theater. My first musical was The Grinch Who Stole Christmas.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then that's when I discovered like I had something. I was like, wait, I can do this. And I started my career in musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how everything started. And from there, everything just changed.
Do you still sing?
I still sing every now and then.
Yeah.
Yes. My last musical was 2022. So
Oh wow.
it's been a long time, 2 years.
No, yeah. Okay. What's your first love out of all? Because as I don't want to say entertainer, but as an artist,
Mhm.
we usually love a whole lot of things.
Yes, I do. Yes. So actually, when I started doing all of this back in high school, after that, I joined the choir group. I joined drama club. I
Mhm.
joined piano lessons. I
Mhm.
was also in dance classes.
Yeah.
So I was doing a little bit of everything. And people always told me like, oh, you got to be one thing. You got to be an actor. You got to be a director. You're going to be this or that. But I was like, I want to try it all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's very important as an artist to know everything around you and how everything works.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very important for me to get that and to understand the world. And when I went to college, that's what I did as well. I did theater, I did musical theater, I did even opera. That was another thing. Yeah, like I did lighting, I did props. You got to learn how to do everything.
Yeah. I read a book about being an actor a long time ago, and it was like you need to know how to do a little bit of everything because you got to do PR, you got to do. You have to do modeling. Well, you've modeled, but they're like, because you have to take pictures for if you get cast in something big, you're gonna have to take a lot of pictures. Like you have to learn how to do everything, and then the business side of it too.
That's a whole different world. I wish it taught me that at school, and now I'm trying to like, oh, this is business.
Yeah. I'm glad we're growing up in this. Well, I don't know if growing up is the right term, but we're coming up in this world where everything's at my fingertips, and it's just like a choice to look it up. Because I feel like if I was coming up in like back in the day when everyone was getting like those bad deals, I would be one of those people because you don't know.
Because you don't know what's right or wrong.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But now you can be like, oh, I can look this up.
Just give me 5 minutes and I'll Google it up. That's it, and that's why I tell everybody there's no excuses right now because you can learn everything online. You have it there.
Yeah. What makes you keep going in this industry?
Oof. I mean, it's very hard. So one of the first things is you got to have a strong mind. Mm-hmm. You got to have thick skin. Mm-hmm. which is hard for me because then one of those, I cry for everything, but that's a different thing
Yeah.
about me. But yeah, you gotta have thick skin. You gotta have a strong mind. And I do this to show everybody that you can do it. Growing up, a lot of people didn't tell me that I could be that person. Growing up, I didn't see myself represented on TV as well.
Right.
So it was a mix of all things. My parents also, they were in the arts, but none of them like reach out more than what they thought they could do.
Yeah.
So it's also a lesson for them, for me, that we can do it.
Right.
Nothing is impossible, but it is hard. Once you like dig into it, it's very hard. But I try to like get up and continue, even though I get a lot of negativity, a lot of no's. You got to live with that.
Yeah.
It's a thing about learning and growing for that and moving on from that. Like you cannot stick with the negativity. You
Right.
gotta find the positive stuff about it, get it, grab it, and have that with you. The negativity, you pull it away, push it away, and you bring the positive of everything, because you gotta. It's a really hard industry, and people get eaten all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy, and you gotta know what you're doing as well. And again, there is no right or wrong in this business.
Right.
So there are no like certain rules, right? So it's either you gotta go with your gut. You gotta go with what you think it's the best thing.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you trust your gut? Like because for me, there's like a lot of times there's a conflict, like between my mind and my gut or my intuition, and I'm like, I know everybody says go with your gut, but like my head is like, no, that's like doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
How do you like decipher or choose to do that?
You know what? It's always not thinking about it that much. Like that's the first step. That when I'm creating something, my mind starts like moving, right? And it's just like, and then I get an idea, I get a good idea, and I think it's a good idea, and then my mind says another thing. And then I go to another idea, and then I'm just like, just go to the first one, right? Stick with that, make that choice, go with it. Whatever happens, you did it. That's what happened when I moved here to Atlanta. Like something in me was telling me, you gotta leave. But my mind was telling me, you gotta stay, because it's the smartest way. Money, this and that, it's not easy. And I was just like, let's just go, because again, like you gotta go with what you think it's right, because you don't want to feel like, oh, I should have done that, right? Like you don't want to be that person then and be like, oh, I should have done that. At least I should have tried. I should have taken a risk. Because it's about taking risks.
Yeah. Taking risks, and it sounds like committing to your decision. Like you can't keep, what is it, waffling?
Yeah, like going around like this or that. It is very hard to find that like that grounded decision, like ground yourself in that decision and be like, okay, I'm just gonna do that one, right? And also as artists, we're constantly creating, like our minds are constantly moving. So it's very hard for us to like choose one, or to think like, oh, I'm gonna do this because this is what I think it's best.
Yeah.
But you just gotta do one of them and go with it, commit fully to it,
stick with it.
Yeah.
And I think about, because I think I don't know if I would call myself a content creator, but I know you create content. You have to go check it out on Instagram.
Yes.
And where to check it out will be in the show notes. But every time I release a podcast or a clip, I get anxiety, I get like nervous, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what are people gonna say? Do you feel that?
I feel that all the time. I'm constantly being watched by people, right?
Yeah.
Like, not only that, when I stand in a theater, in a theater space, like it's very hard, because you're like, what are people gonna think about? This is live. Everything happens in the moment. But I always say, go for it, do it, put it out there. Don't think about it. Again, it goes with it again. Like, put it out there. Don't think about it. Don't look at the negativity of it. Just look at the positive things. And we are stars, no matter what people say. So you put your stuff and you believe it. You gotta believe it. It all starts with what you believe in, right? So if you believe it's gonna be good, if you believe you're good,
Yeah.
then that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's important to believe in yourself. And you said something earlier about your parents, like they kind of just went as far as their mind
Mm-hmm.
allowed them, and it's like it sounds cliche, and I'm full of cliches. Everyone who
I
listens
love it.
knows that, but like the only limits are in your mind, right? Is that what that's what I'm hearing
That's
too?
that's 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 actually very true. You know, my dad had a deal. He got offered a deal to record his own music, right?
Wow.
He plays guitar and he
Hmm.
sings and he's a songwriter, but he never went further than that. You know, he was
Yeah.
like, this. You know, it's not a possible career, right?
Yeah.
And my mom used to be a model, but she never went further than that. My sister, even she was a model as well,
Wow.
but again, she never
Hmm.
went further. My brother was a really good baseball player. He never went further. So you know, it's just about because I know they are right now. They're like, what if? You know,
Uh-huh.
what if I did that?
Yeah.
And I want to show them, you know, like you can do it. You know, anything that you put your mind up to, you can do it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's two of because I was telling you before, exposure. Things are
Mm-hmm.
different now with the internet and stuff, but
Yeah.
like I think if you're not in the world, I can't speak for everyone, but I know when I wasn't in this world, I thought you could only be Denzel Washington or Meryl Streep, and it's so many levels
Mm-hmm.
in between, like starting and where they are, and that doesn't even have to be your goal, and you can make money doing it, and no one may not even know who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's not why I do it. That's a different conversation of like you do it for people to see you, but most of the time we need people to see us so we can make money off of it. But there's different levels of it. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different channels and like ways to approach it. That's part of the reason I wanted to have this show because it's like there's other options than being Meryl Streep.
Yep, there is.
You know?
And that's what a lot of people that get into acting, they're always like, oh, I want to be a star, or I want to be
Mm.
famous, or I want to have money, or I want to be this, or I want to be that. And that's good, but that should not be your main reason because you're in this business, you know, that you're
Mm-hmm.
in this business.
Mm-hmm.
Because those things are not going to come. Like
Yeah.
again, it's not that easy.
Right.
It's a false idea that you get into acting and automatically you're going to be famous, rich, you know, and that's it. It's
Yeah.
not like it doesn't work like that. So you got to find other ways to fulfill that passion, right? So if you're
Mm-hmm.
passionate about this,
Mm-hmm.
then that's enough to move you, right? And to
Yeah.
create, it's like you're doing, you know, you're creating something for yourself. You
Yeah.
feel proud of yourself, right? Because you're doing something that is
Yeah.
hard to do, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you know, you do it all by yourself. So, you know, kudos to that. So
Yeah.
so you cannot wait for anybody to tell you, oh, do this or do that. You gotta go with what you think it's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because getting there, it's not that easy. It's not like, oh,
No.
I got one thing, you know, overnight I'm gonna become the star. No,
Right.
like Meryl Streep didn't become who she is, how she, you know,
Right.
she got denied on the King Kong role because she wasn't pretty enough.
Wow.
So you know,
Wow.
she would have quit. Like she should, you know, like
Yeah.
if she would have been another person, she would have said, okay, I'm not pretty, I'm just gonna quit.
Right. She didn't have to, like you said, push away the
Yeah,
negativity.
yeah,
Don't focus on the no's.
yeah.
And it's also, I think, too, of who you become in the process of every time I keep doing this, I feel good. It's fulfilling. And when I don't pursue it, when I'm not pursuing it in the way that I know I can, I feel sad. I feel like I'm letting myself down, you know? So it's like also, it's not just what you get, it's like who you become and what you can give back. Does that make sense?
You know, that totally makes sense, and I think it goes also with the becoming a star thing, because we're constantly thinking, I want to become like this person, I want to become like that person,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you're comparing yourself with someone else, and you're never gonna be that person because
Right.
you're you,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So in the process, you find yourself, and with that person that you're becoming, you use that and just, you know, use it to boost you into whatever career you're in, right?
Yeah.
You use it because your personality is what's gonna go out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's what people are gonna fall in love with, right?
Yeah.
It's who you are, not that other person that you are trying to become. That's not you. Doesn't come natural.
It's so true. It's so true. And I wonder what you think about you do the work, but then so much of it, the outcome is out of your hands, right?
Yep.
Like, I'm
Correct.
not saying don't do the work and lay in bed and be like, well, it's out of my
Yeah.
hands. But like, you do everything, and then the results are going to be what the results are going to be, right?
Yep.
So it's only been so much you can do anyway.
There is.
Um, what's been the one of the biggest turning points in your life?
Oh. Oof. Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think I'd say number one is when I got my first feature film.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like my life changed in so many ways that I saw myself, I trusted more in myself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we need that validation, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
okay, you know, it's okay because we need to know if we're in the right path,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
those things tell us like you're in the right path, just
Mm-hmm.
continue.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got my first feature film, it was a very hard time in my life. I was in a relationship, you know, it was a really bad relationship. So I was working hard to find my way, to find myself again.
Mm-hmm.
And I do this audition for this movie, and you know, I get the call that I got it, no callbacks, just straight to film, you know.
Right.
So it was what I needed in the right time, because I was thinking in that moment when that happened, I was just like, should I continue acting? Should I continue this? You know, I don't know what I want to do. This is the right thing. How do
Mm-hmm.
I do this? So it was definitely when I got my call for to be in Lionsgate's playing, like that was the thing that changed my life. That was like the thing that was like, okay, this is it. You gotta
Yeah.
work harder now. But you know, it was the thing that I needed in my life.
Mm-hmm. Did you sleep the night before the set? Before your first day?
I couldn't. I couldn't. I couldn't. I couldn't. Honestly, I couldn't. I was like, I had to wake up at 6 a.m. because I was supposed to be on set like at 7,
Mm-hmm.
and like I spent all night like just going rounds and rounds thinking about the outcome of the first day, you know, because you're like,
Mm-hmm.
how is this gonna go? What's gonna happen?
Yep.
You know, is people are really gonna like me,
Mm-hmm.
like this and that. So it was a mix of everything.
Yeah. What was the biggest surprise on that set? Like, because I know it was your first. Well, I don't know. Was
Yeah,
it?
it was my
your
first. It was my
big.
first. It was my first film too. You know, because
Oh
before that
wow!
I did theater.
Right, right, right.
So
Okay. What was the biggest surprise?
that I got my own trailer.
Oh, you got a
I
trailer?
got my own trailer for 3 months.
What?
Yeah.
How big
Yeah.
was it?
Yeah, it was big. It was big. It was big. It was like this room.
I've only been an extra on big films.
Yeah.
But the other films I've been on, I didn't expect. You know,
Yeah.
and I never got a trailer. Well, I wouldn't get a trailer as an extra.
But that was me. That was me the first day. I was like, you know, I got into set, and then this PA comes to me. He's like, you're Angel, right? And I'm like, yeah, yes, I am. It's like, okay, come with me. I'm gonna show you your trailer. And I was like, and I was following him. What I was following in my mind, I was just like,
Yeah.
what? I was like a little kid, just like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And then like they opened the door and they're like, this is it. And my wardrobe was there. I had my script inside because they had everything ready for me.
Wow.
You know, and they also had a menu for breakfast and lunch. And they were like, and then yeah, 5 minutes after that, you know, I go in. I was like excited, and then I hit like and I'm like yes. And then I go outside, and one of the other PAs, he's like, yeah, so I want to know what you want for breakfast. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, here's the menu. Just let me know what you want, and I'll bring it up. I was like, what?
Right.
You're getting that much attention.
Yes.
So it becomes really weird at some point, you know, because it's like, why am I getting all this attention? But you know, you work hard for these things also. So you need to like, you know, pat your back and be like, this is it, you know?
Do you see how people could turn into another person?
They can definitely turn to different people. And that was one of the things for me, like, you know, these things of like people bringing me breakfast, for example. That was something that I was like, you know what? Let me just go with you, and I'll go pick my own breakfast. So I started doing that too, because I was like,
you gotta stay humble.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, why am I making you know, these people, you know, do this? And I'm like, they became my friends too,
right?
You know, because I see them every day. So I came to a point where I was like, I'll go with you. You know what's there? I go with you. I get my own breakfast. I'll do it myself. I'll also mingle with everybody. It's also a really good a moment to just go and meet the people, meet the crew, sit down with them. because some people just spend the whole day
In
in
the
the
trailer.
trailer, and it's like, why,
I mean, there's so many things to think about there because it's like, well, maybe they're studying their script or something,
I mean, yeah, that
but
too.
then or they have to get into character. I
Yeah,
guess because some people have their different methods,
yeah.
But that's your first film. How do you think you? I mean, everyone's different, right? But how do you think you'd be on your 10th film?
I know. I mean, I'm excited for that one.
Right? Like, yes, go get my birthday, please.
Right. No, but I think it's more of like a growing, in the acting part of it. Like that was my first one, and I look back at it and I was like, I should have done so many different things, but you
Yeah,
cannot
right.
you cannot put yourself in that situation because it was the
Mm-hmm.
first time. And even like I went for acting school, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't learn anything in school that's really it's about the real world,
Right,
like, and
right.
that goes for everything, I think, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you really experience it when you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's like more growing as a person, as an actor, as an individual, because at the end of the day, like we're all there collaborating, we're all there to create something
Yep,
good.
yep.
And it's not like I hate when people come to set and they're like, "Oh, I'm the star, or I'm this, or I'm that," because we're all there for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
it should not go around one person.
I always say that even everyone's contributing. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care who you are on set or anything. Like even with this my little podcast, it won't be little for long. But even with my
Exactly.
even with my podcast, it's like even though I do most of it by myself, I still need guests. It's not about me. The show's
Mm-hmm.
not about me. It's about my guests or the guests of
Mm-hmm.
the show, and then it's the audience. If no one's
Exactly.
listening, I mean, there's been some episodes, y'all. Got to step it up. But they're like, I can't do this by myself. So
Yeah.
where would I ever think like that it's all about me? But I also hate to pass judgment of like if I'm on my 10th
Mm-hmm.
set or my 20th set and you're just getting all this adoration, it's like, of course you would love to think you would never turn into that person.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
but yeah, exactly. No, that's true. I mean, I think it's gonna come to a point where it's just like, I don't know, because people, when you are big or when you're something like
Uh-huh.
that, a lot of people like to like go over you, like go on you, and that
Yeah.
also can, you also need to know when and how and where.
The boundaries of it
The
all.
band, when I did
Yeah.
this, I was working with Gerard Butler, so in my mind, I was just like a kid screaming,
Right, right,
and I
right.
wanted just to go over him and be like, all right, teach me everything.
Yeah.
But you gotta find that balance. You
Yeah.
gotta, you gotta understand your boundaries. And I came to him a couple of times and we had conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But it was from a appropriate perspective and from like more
Right.
like, hey, like can
Right.
we talk,
Mm-hmm.
and jokes and stuff like that. But it's about finding your boundaries because again, Gerard Butler was on set, and that guy was so fun with everybody, and
Wow.
that was probably his 100th film. I don't know,
Right, right, right. Some of
So
it's like who
yeah,
you are.
exactly. But there were moments where he didn't want it to be with anybody because he was focusing, he was getting
Mm-hmm.
into character, and that's okay. That's fine too. It's about finding that balance, finding where you catch them. Because if you go to him after a whole film day, obviously nobody's want to talk to anybody. Like we're tired, we want to go
Right,
home.
right. That's another cool thing about getting being friendly on set because you're going to be there long days, a lot of days, and it's like, why make it bad for people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you memorize your lines?
There's a little bit of luck. Be like, okay, can I remember? I can remember that. It's a little bit of association. I associate a lot of words.
Okay.
Like even with the dumbest things, like I think about there's a word, for example, like dynasty, and whatever comes to my mind, it's Mulan for some reason.
Okay.
But it's things that I know about,
Right.
that I can associate, and then I know I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about this, and also, if you know what's happening on the scene, if you really know, because it's more than the lines, right? It's more like what are you saying,
right,
inside of it, right? In
right.
between the lines. So if you know what you're saying in between the lines, then everything else is going to be easier.
Yeah.
And I found that formula to work more, right? Like understand the situation, understand the scene, understand your character, and then you can go dig into the lines, and everything's going to make more sense.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask so many questions about acting, but I know the audience is not. But I wrote down questions. That's why I was typing. I was not being
no.
rude. Did you have an agent or manager when you booked that role?
Yes, I did in Puerto Rico, and yeah, I mean, I tried so many times to get roles. I never got it from Puerto Rico because I was in Puerto Rico. And then, I got that with Lionsgate. It was crazy.
Wow. Your agent got you that.
My agent
got you the audition.
Yeah, exactly. My agent got me the audition. Okay. And then, everything happened.
How did you get your agent?
So, it's very interesting. I was working in Puerto Rico. When I was in Puerto Rico, I was working with a health insurance. Mm-hmm. Just, when you, what's that? I was a brand ambassador, when you go to events and you talk about the products, right?
Yeah.
So I was doing that with an insurance company. And one of the workers, his wife was an agent.
Okay.
And he was an actor too. He was just there, just doing that for extra money. And then he tells me, he's like, "Hey, do you act?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to college. I'm in college right now, studying acting, blah, 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 theater." And then he was like, "Have you done film or commercials?" And I'm like, "No, I've never done it." And he was like, "Okay, you want to be part of our agency?" And I was like, "Okay."
Wait, she saw you or didn't see you?
She saw me after.
So he didn't know you. He didn't know you act, and he just
trusted.
You know what? Doing this show, this makes me want to believe more and more and just go with the flow. Yeah. Because so many people mention serendipity. Mm-hmm. Because that's exactly what you just described. You're in a freaking insurance company, right. Not the furthest industry, right. Like away.
It's just like giving out flyers and stuff, doing the board and stuff. I'm like, okay.
And then he's like, "Do you act?"
Yeah. And I was like, "Yes, I do."
That is so crazy.
It is.
Wow. That doesn't blow your mind?
Yeah, it does. Like anything can happen. That's why I tell everybody, be yourself. Everywhere you are, you got to be nice to people. You got to be, it's not about like trying to be nice. It's just being yourself. Yeah. But also being nice.
And being open, right? Yeah. Is that what you're describing too? Yeah. And because I know for me, I don't know if you've ever done it. Sometimes I can get lost in my own world. Yeah. And I'm not trying to be rude. Me too. I'm just like,
yeah, you're in your own mind, and then you make this face, and people are like, "Why are you mean?" I'm like,
no, I'm sorry. I was thinking about 20 things.
I was thinking about what I was going to eat tonight. Right.
Right. I was like, I ate that yesterday. No.
Right? That's me all the time. Like I'm in my own world all the time. Yeah. And people come to me and they're like, "I thought you were serious," and I'm like, "I'm not. I'm just in my own mind,
Right. I can tell myself to be open, and I when I talked about serendipity, I was like, I said that because I have to share this story really, really quickly. Yeah. I was like, because I used to do the podcast with a friend, and I was like, should I start it back up? I don't know. And I got in the Uber, and the driver was saying how he wanted to be on a podcast. And now this is when I'm in limbo, and it like him and I started talking, and then he came on the show, and I was like, what? I was like, that was the confirmation I needed. Like I needed that push to be on. So it's like I just said that to say like, in my life, I trust signs. I trust that I'll be like led. If that makes sense. Yeah. I'm doing the work behind the scenes, but then it'll happen when it's like supposed to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and be nice to your Uber drivers. Right. With that, I also got another role because of an Uber driver.
Really? We gotta get Ubers, y'all.
So
that's it. All we gotta do is take Ubers.
You gotta be nice with your Uber drivers. Yeah. You never know. Like the other day, I was with this guy who used to work in Coca-Cola, and then he tells me, like, "Well, I own 6 properties all around the world, and I'm just doing this for fun." And I'm like, "What?"
Right.
Like interesting people,
I talked to one when I was living in LA. He was like, it was a company that went out of business. It was like Macy's or something. I think it was like Hex or something, but he was like the CEO or something. And he was like, well, they went out of business, and I had, severance. He's like, I just having fun. I'm like,
it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. And I love meeting strangers. And this is what I wanted to ask you about networking and the business side of it too. So you met your agent. Were you even looking for one?
I wasn't looking at that time. I was in college. So I was like, I was doing theater. So I was doing professional theater by that time. But I was like, in my own thing. I thought that I wanted to be on Broadway, and that was my dream, right? Like to be on Broadway. But things change,
Yeah. Do you have a manager?
I still don't have a manager.
Right. Okay.
So finding the right moment for that.
Do you have an agent now?
I have an agent right here.
You got one in Atlanta. Yeah. What did you have to do for your agent here?
So this one's a little bit harder.
Okay. This one didn't
fall to your lap. It wasn't that easy. But yeah, basically, through a friend that was part of the agency
Okay.
as well. He kind of like recommended me because I had my Lionsgate film already,
Right.
so that was like a really good thing for me, like to
Yeah.
get inside the room. And the first time I tried, they were like, you know what, we're not looking for people that look like you
Okay.
still. And I'm like, okay. I kept searching other agencies because you got to keep finding options, right?
Right.
So 2 months later, they reach out to me again. They're like, "Hey, we can have a meeting now." And by that time, I also had a meeting with another agency. So I was meeting with two agencies. I was like, "Hey, that's fun." I'm meeting with two different agencies, and things on here and there. I had an interview with them because you had to have an interview with them. They go through all your materials. They go to your resume. They ask you what do you want to do, right? And 2 days later, after the interview, I was with my agent. So it was, wasn't that hard of a process once you're in there, but to get seen and to get looked at, it's hard.
Yeah.
Because right now, a lot of agencies, since they have like a lot of people already, a lot of clients, they're not taking people in just by that. Yeah. Either it has to be by a producer that tells them, or a casting director, or someone who's in the agency that can recommend you.
Yeah.
But it's getting harder just because there's a lot of people here in Atlanta,
saturated.
Especially.
Yeah, saturated. Do you have what do you think about the politics of it all, of like the networking? Because we met at a networking event. The networking and the not the dancing of it, but the politics of it.
I mean, coming here again in Puerto Rico, that this wasn't important, right? Because everybody knows everybody there. It's so small.
Yeah.
But coming here, I was like, how can I get inside the rooms? How can I know people? How can I really know the people that are working in the industry and learn from them?
Right.
And then I started doing the networking thing, and for me, it was like, oh my god, I have to dress up and go to an event for an hour.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And then just talk to everybody, and it's hard, people. It's hard. Like
it is hard.
Like pump yourself, right? And be happy and smile.
Oh my god! It's like going on a job interview every day.
Yeah, exactly. But for an hour and talking to the same people, like every 5 minutes, you're saying the same thing to everybody.
Yep.
But it's very important in this business because a lot of times, we're auditioning, right? And people don't see, especially now, everything's on self-tape.
Okay.
So people are not seeing the right you, right? A lot of people are out there looking for people, again, looking for new talent, looking to get to know what people are like, right? And you never know who you're talking to. So the networking part of it is very, very important because you cannot sit in your house waiting for that opportunity to come to you.
Right.
You got to meet the right people. You got to talk to them. You got to create something. You got to collaborate. Especially if you're looking like to develop your own thing or your own ideas, or you feel like you're not being seen in casting because the characters that you're receiving are not anything like you, right? Like do not represent you.
Yeah. So
you get to know these people. You get to know producers, writers who are wanting to create content. And that's another thing. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of indie filmmakers that are trying to create their own content. And believe it or not, when they see an actor, they get ideas. They're like, oh my God, I got an idea now. Like, I want to create something around who you are. And that happens.
Yeah.
So, networking is a very important part of it. Like, I've been in the room with such amazing people and incredible artists that I'm just like, how, right?
Right.
And it's hard because you're like, sorry. You're like, how do I talk to these people? How do I, again, it's just about being yourself.
Yeah.
Not being too much.
Right.
Because you're gonna like, give me a job, right? You can't be like that either.
You can't come off desperate.
Yeah, you're gonna come desperate. You're gonna come off like, oh, I need a job. Right. I mean, we all need a job. We're looking for jobs all the time. But yeah, you gotta be yourself. You gotta be open. You gotta talk to people. You cannot be afraid of that. Like, if you're afraid of talking to people, this is not it,
Yeah.
Because you constantly have to be speaking to people, telling who you are, telling what do you want, and I don't know, it's fascinating once you get into it. It is hard, again, like talking to people all the time, but it is very important in this business. Like, if you have talent, but if you're out there, constantly trying to find yourself and trying to find new opportunities for yourself, you're going up there,
Yeah.
Because again, we are constantly audition. We sit down, like you said, you cannot sit down in your bed and be like, that's it, I did my audition.
Yeah.
I'm done. No, that's not the job. That's not the work. You gotta work harder than that. And you got to go out there. You got to talk to people. You never know who you're meeting.
Yeah. How often do you network?
Well, for the last 2 months, I've been doing it like almost every week. Like almost
Once
every
a week?
week.
Once a week?
Yeah. Like
That's my
least.
goal too.
Yeah.
Once a week.
Yeah.
So okay. Do you ever go more or less than that?
I've done more than once. Yeah.
Okay. If you miss a networking event, do you beat yourself up?
At first I do, but then I'm like, it depending, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it was a really big event, I'm like, oh, I should have done it.
Yeah, yeah.
But sometimes you gotta listen to yourself, right? Sometimes
Yes.
you don't have some, because again, like going out and talking to people saying the same thing to everybody, it's hard.
It is. And
not trying to come as like aggressive or being like needy, being like, I want you to want me, right? Because that's the thing. That's like, I want you to like me. I want you to want me, and we're constantly thinking that, but that you gotta get that out of your head, because not everybody's gonna like you too, right? But not every day you're gonna feel like you want to go out.
You can't, because I look at this like a regular job for me. Not a regular job in the sense of it's a regular job, but like, you don't call out of your regular job that pays your bills.
Exactly.
Typically. But every once in a while you do, and you have to honor that. Because a couple weeks ago I drove to one, and I went in, it just felt off, and I was trying to push, and they told me that I needed to move my car because it would be like $40 for parking. So I went to look for parking and I couldn't find it. And I was like, you know what? Something feels wrong, and I'm just going to go home. And then I beat myself up. But I was like, I should have stayed. No. And then I looked at the pictures on Instagram, and I was like, I could have met these people. And then I'm like, I had to you got to get over it and then go to the next event. But
sometimes you got to, that again goes with the gut. Sometimes there are signs out there are telling you, just don't go home. You don't need this today, or there's nothing for you today here, right?
Yes.
Because we think like, again, that's social media telling us all the time, right? Like everybody's happy, or everybody's like, that's a fake thing, right? Not. And again, like we see this and we're like, oh my God, photos, like it happens to me too all the time,
Mm-hmm.
But then I got to think about it. I'm like, there was something that didn't want me there.
That's true.
And I gotta believe that, and I gotta look it that way.
That's the wrestling of making goals for yourself. We said, like kind of a quota. Mm-hmm. Once a week is the networking, right? But then that day comes, and something in your spirit or your gut or whatever is like, no. And that's when it feels like I'm kind of like, am I honoring myself, or am I disrespecting my goal? Am I then it's like, oh, am I just going to throw my whole career away?
And that's what we think about. That's the first thing we think about. It's like, oh my God, I'm a nobody now. I feel so lazy. I didn't do this. It's one thing, one thing,
and I'm just a loser.
But it's, it happens all the time, like you just don't feel it, right?
Yeah.
And you're just not going to go somewhere and then be like, not be happy, right? Like not be like.
And I probably would have done more harm than good, because I wasn't in the right space.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just get over it in those instances.
Get over it.
Yeah. Are you still in acting classes?
I take my acting classes.
Yeah. Where do you? Can you say?
I'm taking right now. His name is Clayton. He teaches at the Alliance Theater.
I was going to ask, was it at the Alliance? Because I've been going to the Friday. It's a name, but it's Friday's like a workshop.
Oh,
really? You heard it? It's free.
Alliance?
It's on Friday. Yeah, on Friday nights. I've been going to that. I forgot it's called the Collective.
Who is it with?
I forgot her name. She's very nice. She's great because she does some of her. The thing is, it's like an open mic almost, but it fosters. It gives critique.
Oh, nice.
Does that make sense? Like I could go in with a monologue or a poem or something, and then they would critique it.
Oh, that sounds fun.
But they're very kind. It's very positive and like uplifting, but it's constructive criticism too.
Yeah, because you, as an actor, you gotta be able to put yourself into that situation, right? Because you gotta get that feedback, even though sometimes it comes negative. But again, you gotta hear those negatives. And, if you want to do something with that, you do something with that. If you want to throw them away, you throw them away, right?
Exactly.
Because from that negativity, you can make it into something positive, right?
Yeah.
Or like you're not giving too much, or just giving too much, right? How do you use that in a positive way?
Yeah.
And I was trained in a school where my teachers would tell me like straight ahead, like you're bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to take that. I had to take a breath and continue with it, because sometimes you gotta listen to whatever you want to. You listen to whatever you want to listen to.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody's not going to be your fan.
They're not.
So that's just the way it goes. And that's anything you do. It's just never going to be that way.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you, how did you get into content creation?
So I think one thing led to the other. I was at home. Yeah, I was at home. Just like, oh, what do I do? Like what else can I do to keep moving my creativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found that way. I found a way to put that in there, and you be myself on camera, and be the self that I always wanted to be. Right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Be the person that I always wanted to be, and just be myself on camera. And I was like, how can I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not gonna do that in movies.
Right.
I cannot do that in movies because
Right.
the point of being an actor is just being something different, right? Like changing the way that you are. But yeah, I found that, and I enjoy it all the time. I do whatever comes to my mind, and I just put it out there and just
You don't
go
think
with
about
it.
it too
And
much.
you don't expect any. I mean, I don't expect people to be like, oh my god, I love it, or I just expect people to laugh and just have a good time when they see my videos.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. I think. Do you think it's from a business perspective? Do you think it's just a good way to put yourself out there even more?
It is.
Okay.
I've gotten a lot of jobs that they were like, oh, I saw your Instagram page, or
Mm-hmm.
I was scrolling to and I saw your videos. That's right now I'm an ambassador for a beard company.
Oh wow.
And they saw my videos and they reach out to me. And they were like, we like your beard. Do you use products or stuff like that?
Uh-huh.
And they offer me something, and I was like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Do you have any qualities that you look for when you work with people? Like, I'm not feeling this, or like, oh no, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
If you have a good project, if you have something that you're passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's enough for me. If you're passionate about something, then I want to be passionate about that too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. The time is going so fast. We don't have that much more, but so I'm gonna get these three questions, and they will be hopefully quick. Is that okay?
Okay.
That works for you? I feel like you already answered this one, so I will skip that one. But what do you hope that people say about you when you're not in the room?
I hope that people remember my energy, my positivism. I'm very positive. I try to uplift, and that's what I wanna. That's what I want people to talk about me, right? Like how uplifting I am. How I come to a room and just leave everybody happy. Because sometimes you should not sometimes we adapt to the energy in the room, but you should bring the energy to the room. And I like to do that. I like to come positive, even though I'm having a bad day or whatever. Like I try to be when I'm around people, I try to bring that positive, trying to bring the good energy. But that's what I think.
How'd you come to that conclusion?
The world is already so negative and so realistic, and being realistic is not bad because sometimes we gotta ground ourselves, right? Like,
yes,
this is reality, people. But the world is harming itself, just by whatever, by what's happening already. So I decided to just why shouldn't I be more positive? Why shouldn't I be more happy? Why shouldn't I be more smiley? It's free, right? Smiling to someone is free. Being, saying good stuff about people is free. So everybody should practice that, right? Why shouldn't everybody? Why isn't everybody doing this?
Yeah. Do you have any practices that you do daily, like journaling or whatever, like a process? I'm asking because I do affirmations and journal and pray. But if I don't do those things for a few days, I am lost. I have to do, I would say just more getting in tune with myself and asking myself where I am, what am I just a quick reflection, right? I try to do it every day, but if I skip some days, then I got to do it for longer. because I'm further
You're like,
away. I'm further away. So I'm like, okay, what
I
do
need
I
more time.
need? Yes. Do you have to? Because and I envy. I don't want to say envy. That's a strong word, but I admire people who don't have to do that stuff, and it just comes
Yeah,
to them, and then they're like, I'm good, and I talk to people who don't need to do that whole process. I have
that's
to.
crazy.
Do you have to do that,
So
or anything similar? A practice,
so
I
every
mean.
every morning I do yoga. That's the way
Ah,
that I center myself and I find
okay.
my way. And I'm like, it's just relax. It's just relax for a little bit because the day is about to start, right?
Uh
And that's how I
huh.
put it myself. I'm like, let's center myself, find myself where I'm at today. What do I want to achieve? And from
Hmm.
there I go to the whole world. I do
Yeah.
that. I do my vocal exercises in the morning. So I
Okay.
try to like keep myself connecting like what's in here with what's in here too, and
Yeah.
every like my body in general, and I use the voice as part of it too because I use
Hmm.
my body to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like a little bit of everything, but I think it's definitely necessary to find where you are every day, right?
Yes.
Because no matter what you think you are, like no matter what you think, like, oh, today I had a good day or whatever, this happened, blah blah blah. But you got to sit down and think about that,
Yeah.
think about the good things that you did today, think about what you can in what you can get better,
Hmm.
what happened today, why did it make you feel like that. That's very important too. So at the end of the day, I sit in the shower too, and I
Hmm.
like everything comes to me and I'm like, okay, this is what I did today, and I talk to myself. I have
Yeah.
this conversation all the time with myself to
Yeah.
see and to see where I'm at,
Right. Right.
just
Right.
to have a connection with my feelings too.
Yeah, but I think it's important because if you don't check in on them, for me,
Hmm.
if I feel like if I don't check in on them, they'll come out at inopportune times.
Yep. And then you're gonna explode, and
Yes.
and someone's gonna be, why are you screaming at me? Like, wait, this happened 2 weeks ago, and now I'm
Right?
exploding at you.
I'm like, why am I snapping right now? Oh, okay, I didn't do my work, my reflection work. How long do you do the yoga? For how long,
So I do it.
typically?
So I do all my exercises almost for an hour,
Oh
right?
wow.
Like
Okay.
with
Okay.
that, I also do I do my core exercises too. Then I do a little bit of everything.
Uh-huh.
So it takes like an hour,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
it's I always say like we need to stop sometimes and give time for like have time with ourselves. Like an
Yeah.
hour. I don't think it's that much either. Like I feel
No.
like I need more time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very important to see where you are, because we
Yep.
need to connect everything: it's soul, it's body, it's the voice, the head. It's all that, and you
Yeah.
have to take care of it.
Yeah. And I know for me, I can get away from myself very quickly. Like I told you, I do miss days, and I've lost
Yeah.
Selena like that. And I'm like, whoa,
Where
okay.
is it?
I got to sit down. I have to sit down. And I think, yeah, I think just finding whatever time works for you. And I'm thinking about the audience. Someone might hear an hour. I think an hour is wonderful.
Yeah.
But someone's like, oh, I have kids. I have this, I have that. Well, fine. Give yourself 10 to 15 minutes, and that will make a huge difference. I'm not telling people what to do,
Yeah.
but it's like,
But
it makes a big difference, especially when you haven't been doing it. You will feel it quick,
you
you
will
know?
feel, yeah, and you find a way to, you gotta wake up earlier, wake up a little earlier, you gotta go to bed a little
Right,
later, but then
right.
do it, take that time, because it's very important for everybody to do it, because we get lost,
Yes, and it
in a
happens.
second.
Yep. And I think we owe it to ourselves, and I think we deserve it. You deserve to like get to know you. Who's in here?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Who is in there? Mental health today is a real issue, right? And
Yep.
it's because of these things. We don't talk about these things,
Right.
and this all goes together, right? Because
Yeah.
it's a way to know where you are, and this is very important. I tell everybody, we're living in a world where all these things were a taboo, right? Like
Hmm.
years ago, and now we're finally realizing that, okay, it's okay
Yeah.
not to be okay.
Yeah. And I say, and that's another reason, like we started the show, and that's why, like, it's important for me to keep it going, amongst a lot of reasons. But I want to push that. I don't want to push it on people, but I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's take care of ourselves, and let's expose what we do for ourselves, or our hurts or our pains. And I don't like draw that out of other people, but I'm just like, you're not alone, and there's
You're not alone.
always someone who feels like you do, and these are the tips that help. That's the whole thing. And I wanted to go back to, dang, I had a question about career. It's gone, but I wanted to give tips of something like, a lot of people that watch the show may think, they're not in the entertainment business, but I think a lot of these things apply, presenting yourself in a good way, knowing the business, observing politics, showing up as your best self.
Yeah. My God.
Because you never know. And
You
even
never know.
you doing that in the insurance industry, they must have liked you to want to work with you even more. And they didn't even know if you were an actor.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But it was the way you were carrying yourself. That's what I imagine. I don't know.
You know, and that's very true. You know, I used to be this kid who just didn't care how, you know, how I would come out of my house, right? And again, those are things that comes with your personality and who you are. You're like, I want to, you know, but you should at least be presentable all the time. And, you know, I don't want to say like be dressed up all the time, you know, like you're going to a gala or whatever. But you got to go out and present the best person that you can be, right? Be the best person that you can be, because you never know who you're going to find out, you know, in the room, who's going to be in the room. Even if you're going to the supermarket, like, you know, like, you gotta look presentable. And I was a guy, like, for example, my beard, I was like, I don't want my beard, you know, my head, I became bald for a reason. So, you know, all those things are just like, you gotta take care of yourself. There's
no way around it.
Yeah, there's no way around it. Like, you gotta do it.
Okay. All right. So I told you about the show. What's the whole show is about your definition of success and challenging the stereotypical definitions of success. So what's yours?
You know, I think success, it's very personal for everybody, right? Like, everybody has a different definition, which is like, I think you're bringing this question, right? I love it.
Yes.
But for me, success is pushing boundaries to yourself and working to get them, working to get wherever you are. You know, one of my goals when I started college was being a Hollywood movie. It was very like, it's literally like that. It was written like that. 5 years later, I did it, and I feel so successful. And no matter what happened after that, for me, I felt like I could do it, and that anything that you put your mind into, you can do it. Now, success doesn't always go like you want it, right? Like, sometimes it's just failure, right? But even failure should not be negative, because that's telling you that you tried it. You did put yourself there in the situation. You tried it. It didn't work out. Now you can learn from it and continue, and, you know, keep trying to get it. And at some point, you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
So that's a very tricky thing, because when we think about success, we're like, oh, I failed this, I failed that, so I wasn't successful enough. And I'm like, no, you should not beat yourself down because of that. You should wake up, you should stand up, wait, you know, put yourself, be like, okay, what did I learn from that situation? How can I become better? And that's when the success happens.
Yeah.
Too, you know, like when you learn from things as well. When you're like, oh, this wasn't this because of this and that. Oh, now I get it. And that's successful for me. You know, learning, finding about things, trying, putting yourself out there. It's all that together, because we live in a world, again, where success is always win, 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 win. And every time we lose, it's bad, and it should not be bad.
Yeah.
From failures, you learn how to, you know, be completely successful, be completely yourself. So yeah, it's a little bit with that.
Doing the thing. Right?
All I said, yes, that's it. No, I love how you, that's it. But I think I'm discovering this right now. You know, it's very interesting when you think about it, you talk about it, like, wait.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, you wrote it down and you did it.
Yeah.
And you learned a lot along the way. It took 5 years.
Like, it wasn't that, you know, it wasn't that easy.
But it's so beautiful to me of who you become on that journey. The day you wrote it was not the day you should have had it happen, because you weren't prepared.
It was like, no, it's not gonna happen today, you know.
That's not the day. You're not ready. So it's I think it's wonderful. Thank you for that. And I have my one last question, and then we'll close out. Are you okay? You're good?
Yeah.
It's fast, right?
Wow. Yeah. I feel like I've been talking a lot too.
No, that's the point. That's the point, right? Yes. And a couple of episodes, I did too much talking. I was like, Selena, you're supposed to be having a conversation with this person and interviewing them. Why are you doing all the talking? Shut up. So I've been working
I
on
love that.
on
I love that.
that. But you learn, you grow, and blah blah
Again, that's
blah.
success, right? That's
Yes,
it.
yes,
You learn
and
from
that's
it.
why I love it so much when I'm setting a goal and doing it. I used to have so many ideas and goals, and I would just write them down and really didn't pursue them, and or when it got hard, stop, right?
Yeah.
But then I learned over time. I was like, oh, everything you try is going to get really hard. So you have
Yeah.
to push through that first hurdle and the next and the next and the next, and it's not going to be easy, but you feel good. It feels so fulfilling and rewarding along the
Yeah.
way. So it makes it worth it. Life's not. What's the point?
Right. What's the point of living if you're just not gonna put yourself out there, right? And
Yeah,
try. Because
yeah,
again, what are you getting with what are you taking with you when you die, right?
yeah.
You take nothing, right? That's it.
Nothing.
So it's you the only thing is that you can leave things behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
but that's going to be on you. That's going to be in the person that you wanted to be in this world. And
Right.
with that, you're leaving things behind, and people are going to look up for you, and people are going to follow your path
Yeah. Yeah.
because there are no rules in life, right? So
Right.
we got to find themselves. We got to try things.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people you got to travel, you got to go out, you got to
Yeah.
experience life. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what it's all
Yeah.
about. Even in acting, like a lot of my professors always told me, like, the only way you're going to learn about this is if you live. And
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy when you
Yeah.
think about it. It's crazy because, yeah, it's true. The only way you're gonna be able to show these emotions is because you lived.
Yeah, yes. That's why I've heard artists say they're going to take a hiatus because they need to go be like regular
Yeah,
humans.
yeah.
Um, someone I know told me he went to a orientation or like he audited a class or something. It was at a college, and the professor said, "You all should just quit school and go act," because
Literally, that's it. It's life.
he was
Yeah.
like, "Why? This is stupid. It's not going to help."
I love it. It is. It's crazy. It's just
Yeah,
it's just living.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
and then
living.
being able to tap into those
Yeah.
emotions. Um, oh, what's the best? My last question. What's the best uh, piece of advice you've ever received?
Oof. Well, I don't know if this is the best advice, but I had this professor in college. He used to tell me, if a director, he was an acting professor, right?
Okay.
So it was from an acting perspective, but I think it can be
Mm-hmm.
applied to anything. He said, if someone doesn't say something to you, like if somebody doesn't say anything about your work, then it means either two things.